from the offices, and you're watching BRANDCORE, weekly discussion on food, brands, and business. So we have covered a number of topics to date. Whoops, I just kicked my tripod. We've talked with entrepreneurs, we've talked with labeling experts, we've got social media coming up, we've talked with photographers. And today's very special guest is Sophie Blue from Blue Planet PR. And I'm just going to invite Sophie in. There she is. Hi, Sophie.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thanks. Feels like the time has flown. We've seen you in snatches around the area.
Yeah.
And soon we'll be able to see everyone in person again, won't we?
I know.
Exciting that the state's opening.
We're having another coffee at Penny Lane soon.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So I see your posts, very regularly on Instagram, on LinkedIn. You've got you're working with football, you're working with NPOs, all sorts of clients. I thought, perhaps we'd start by having you, I guess, tell us a little bit about your background. You're a PR veteran with 20 years of experience.
Yeah, much more than 20 years. 20 years makes me younger than I am, so I say 20 years.
So tell us what it is about PR that captivates you, that's exciting, that businesses and brands of all sizes can benefit from.
Sure. Well, I started my career as a journalist, and I never actually really grasped what PR was until I was working. I graduated and working in journalism, and I used to get contacted by PRs all the time. My managing a column within. I worked for a company of journalists that did syndicated columns, and I looked after the What's On column for the Good Weekend in the Sydney Morning Herald. And I used to have so many PRs pitching to me, and I remember thinking at the time, these people are muppets. Seriously, who would work in PR? They annoy me so much. Anyway, then I went and worked for a company that was producing in-house magazines, and they did PR as a service for their clients, and I just sort of started helping out, and it was so much fun. It was really great because previously working within the sort of the print journalism space, all I really did was just write all day. But when I work in PR, I actually got to be involved in broadcast journalism as well. Radio, I helped set up radio interviews. I also told stories to journalists, and being an ex-journalist, I kind of knew what they were after and knew how to not make my pitch really irritating, and which is quite important. So, and the thing that I really loved about PR, and I do still love, is that no 2 days are the same, and that particularly when you work agency side as opposed to in-house, you work in so many different areas. You get to meet lots of interesting people. This job has taken me around the world. I've met amazing people, and I've had the good fortune to work with really incredible people too. I think PR does get a bit of a rap a lot of the time. It's got a very sort of ab-fab sort of sweet, all cocktail parties, etc., image around it, but it's so, well, certainly the PR that I do is so not that.
Of course. It depends, doesn't it, on the sector. So you touched on a couple of interesting themes. So first of all, the fact that some of the people who used to pitch to you back when you were a journalist were muppets, quote unquote, and clearly had no idea of what made for a compelling story.
I probably shouldn't have said that. It's not a very
it's funny because I've been in journalism as well, and And yeah, not to give away my age or anything, but this is back in the day of faxes. And so my job was to sit next to the fax machine where the press releases would come in, and you'd look at them and you'd go, oh my God. Like, So what are the ingredients of a good pitch then? Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
I think the first thing you really need to do is do your research in terms of where story to, and know if there is a particular segment or column, or there's a blog or a somewhere where you could really see your story fitting, then make a beeline for that. What I recommend that you don't do is what we call the spray and pray approach, where you basically send out your press release to every man and his dog in the media landscape of Australia, and you take the approach, oh well, if I just chuck it up against the wall it might stick. We don't do that. We really like to take a very sort of focused approach and try as much as possible to give the media what they need in the format they need. So our pitch becomes low-hanging fruit for them because we've packaged it up in a way that's really easy for them.
Got you. So quality over quantity, and that's a really interesting point of pitching specifically which part of that publication you would be suited for.
You know that a journalist, for example, has been writing on a particular topic over the last couple of months, and you know that something relating to your client or your product is relevant to what they write about, then you contact them. And if you can show to them that you understand their interests, their tone, what they like to write about or to cover or to explore, or you've got something which you think is really going to rock their world, then that's kind of how you increase.
So that's another really important thing, isn't it, is to actually cultivate those relationships. And Australia is not a huge country, so you don't have to cultivate relationships with 5,000 journalists. There might just be fewer than 20 that are perfect for you.
That's right. Keep in mind is that as with many different sectors, the media, there are a lot of revolving doors. Journalists and everyone involved in the media, they go, they change roles, they move around, they do lots of different things. So it's really good to keep up to date with that. And I find the best tool to do that, we subscribe to a daily newsletter called Social Diary. And Social Diary is like the absolute Bible, really, for PR.
It's a good tip for anyone out there who's listening. Social Diary, and that's a subscription service, isn't it?
Yeah, it's daily newsletter, and they'll tell you like who's the new news editor here, or who's joined this lifestyle team. This particular journalist is doing a story on XYZ. And there are other services that do that as well. There's another one called Source Bottle. Bottle is spelled SOURCE, like source. Post daily call outs from journalists. Also, Tellum Media is also very good. Tellum is TELUM. They do sessions with journalists. So there are lots of tools out there to keep on.
So you don't just have to stalk them on LinkedIn or Twitter endlessly. I'm often amazed at how many journalists are on Twitter. Those are the better tools.
Yeah, you do. You cover all bases. Yeah.
Got you. So the stalking's okay too. Yeah. To use a really awful word.
Don't start, getting creepy.
Of course.
I call it doing research.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah. Because it is worth knowing, where do they stand on various political issues, and sort of sometimes be able to pitch your story maybe from that perspective, that it has a particular social angle or angle specific to an area they're passionate about. Interesting.
Exactly. It's got to be in their bonnet about something. Like if they're really anti fast food, you probably don't want to invite them on a junket for McDonald's, for example. Yeah.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Good. Yes. So, I mean, it just boils down to getting to know them as people, doesn't it? So
Yeah.
they're not like this faceless wall of like, this is the media and this is me.
Yeah.
They're actually individuals and they care about things, and you have to take the time to get to know that and craft your message to appeal to that.
Yeah.
Interesting. You also mentioned, you know, the kind of that the glamour side of PR, which you called the kind of the, I don't know, the part that some people don't understand, perhaps. But you know, an important point there is, I don't know, for one of the better word, the media stunt. You know, so if you've got like a product launch, instead of just putting it on the supermarket shelf, is to have an event or a party or a cruise. To what extent do PRs such as yourself package up a client's news with all those other, I guess, activities that, you know, amplify the news itself?
Well, we haven't been doing it much at all in the last 18
months.
Of course. But before that, look, it really depends on what your product is. And I think if we're talking about food brands and, you know, alcohol brands, lifestyle brands, a launch event as such can be a really powerful way of ticking a lot of boxes all at once. Be a good opportunity to get your product into the hands of these key opinion leaders. It's a good way of building relationships. It's a good way for the media or the opinion leaders or the influencers or the bloggers or whoever you're inviting along to meet the people behind the brand. So the brand is just faceless. It's, you know, they get to understand the story, the people, the human side of what you're trying to communicate. Yeah, it's really up to what you're selling and how you sell it and how you package it up. Now, someone's just asked, when is the sweet spot for pitching a holiday themed story? Sweet spot depends on lead times for the media outlet that you're pitching. Now, in the olden days, when there were, I mean, there still are magazines, but they're not what they used to be. Of
course,
Our lead time, if we wanted to get something into a mag, was 3 months. It's crazy now when you think about it.
Yeah, it does seem crazy.
It does. But now, I would say for, let's say it's summer school holidays. I would contact, there's different elements of the media for like print and online stories. I would be pitching a good story a good couple of weeks beforehand. Give yourself time to follow up and, you know. For radio, you can probably get a bit closer, maybe a week out. Depends if it's like talkback radio or something like that. If it's a news story that you want to get on the 6 p.m. news, you can pitch it the day before or a couple of days.
Yeah.
So it all depends, really.
Yeah, interesting. And what are some other things that you need as part of that package? So you mentioned that it's useful to give editors what they want. Are you talking about, you know, do you have sort of a recommended amount of photography or video? What are some other assets that editors would find helpful?
Good photography is the number one.
Yeah.
More so than a beautifully crafted press release these days. You know, stories you can get a story if you have a really stunning visuals, be they photography, video, you know, whatever, you know, aerial drone shots of a whatever. The visuals, that is one element that can get a story up on its own. You will often see for any of you out there that still read the newspaper, you know, the first couple of pages of the newspaper may have just be an absolutely stunning photo.
Yes.
And it be some whales swimming underwater or something beautiful, you know.
Yeah.
So yes, visuals first of all. We're actually putting together at the moment for environmental hygiene client of ours what we call a multimedia news release. So that news release which we are putting out to the media, we have pre-recorded video interviews with key spokespeople which have been edited down so the media can grab out chunks of that.
Yeah.
We have high-res photography. We have audio grabs, which are audio interviews, which literally the radio news desks, again, can just pull out and slot into their news bulletins. Media release, of course, have relevant links. So it's this package of, it's a media release, but it's a multimedia news release because it's got all these different elements to it. So it's a bit of a one-stop shop. And again, what we're aiming to do is help our clients, give them a better chance to get up on national media by making it dead easy for the journalists. They're all under-resourced. They're all working fine. You have got to, as a PR, you've got to make their life as easy as possible. And then that will...
Yeah, that is really interesting. And just on the note of food brands, you know, and amazing imagery, are there any sort of stories that come to mind from the last couple of years where perhaps a really compelling image or video, you know, dramatically boosted, I guess, engagement or interest in a food brand?
Yeah, well, look, we're working on something right now, actually, which definitely, I think some of the visuals for this campaign have just been an absolute knockout. So the campaign is Connect, and it is it was launched last year with a partner of ours called MGI Entertainment. And what they did, they have very good networks with celebrities and KOLs, and they brought together a group of celebrity chefs who, this was when we just went into lockdown last year, and they created a series of recipes that they then put out on their social media to raise money for Oz Harvest.
Wow.
We then got food brands to sponsor the initiative. This year we're doing it again. We're doing it right now. If you check it out, the Instagram account is plate4_our_mate. plate4_our_mate. And so yeah, this year we're focused on, yes, you know, we've been in lockdown in Sydney, but we're not in lockdown in other parts of Australia. We're coming out of lockdown. So whether you're in or out of lockdown, whatever you're doing at the moment, food and sharing a plate and cooking is a really great way of connecting with people.
Of course.
And, so that's how the whole hashtag Cook to Connect comes in. We have got these food brands. We've got Perfection Fresh as a sponsor, big fruit and veg company.
Yeah, great.
Rio Vista Olives, Manning Valley Beef, which is beautiful beef from around Taree, Nature's Nate Honey, Dorsonia, the ham company, and Patax. And so what all of these companies have done, they have been giving us product, which we then give to our celebrity chefs. The chefs are creating these unbelievable recipes. And we've got the team from MGI going in and shooting the content and sharing it out on the social media. And I think the chef that is doing the best job of all is Jason Roberts, who he is the former head chef of Bistro Moncur. Yeah. And if you have a look at his Instagram account, he's at Chef Jason Roberts.
Yeah.
His stuff is
awesome. It is
stunning. So that, I think what we've been able to do with this campaign is really integrate the visuals over the digital channels, but also the media as well. We, on not last Sunday, but the Sunday before, we were on Weekend Sunrise. We locked in all the weather segments there.
Yes.
We went to Manu's Private Kitchen, who he's also one of our chefs, and we did 7 segments there. Each one with a different theme around cooking, food, sharing meals together. We also got a spokesperson from the Black Dog Institute as well.
Yes, that's right. I saw the post about that.
Yeah, that sort of the human interest side of it as well. So we not only deliver great visuals for this campaign, we've got the celebrity element as well.
Yeah.
Yes. Sponsors, we've got the brand elements.
Yeah.
We've also got the not-for-profit element as well.
Yeah, of course.
Book.
So we're very cross-pollinating into all these different areas. I was going to ask at the start of the interview, and then we got sidetracked, you know, how has the media landscape changed? Would you say that's one of the biggest changes, is that, you know, when you do a public relations campaign, it's not just the client that benefits. There are all these, the celebrities, there are the influencers, the various talents, you know, so photographers get acknowledged like they never did 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Same with stylists and anyone else involved in the creative side. So yeah, is there anything else? Is that sort of quite an exciting, a fairly recent phenomenon, do you think, in your experience?
Look, I think the biggest change, hands down, has been social media.
Yes.
It's changed everything.
Yeah.
I used to teach PR at UTS some years ago, and we used to talk about different models of communication. I'm getting a bit academic. Hopefully I don't make everyone's eyes glaze over here. But in the olden days, PR in the media was a very one-way thing. Basically, you know, the journalists talking to people, and there was very little scope for feedback, unless it was, you know, letters to the editor or people ringing in on the shock jock lines. But now, because of social media, the whole communication process is 2 ways. You know, you know, a message will be put out there, people will give their feedback, that message may change again, and there is this constant exchange of information, messaging, and social media has democratized the media exponentially. Also, when you think about, it's interesting in like fashion media, I find it's quite interesting and amusing, because a lot of old school fashion editors who would always be front row of all the big fashion shows really don't like the fact that a lot of influencers and these other people who they see as upstarts are now usurping the front rows, and the pecking order of the media has changed.
That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, it used to be the humble, you know, the PR or the company begging at the gates of this the mighty sort of media empire, and there was like this boundary, wasn't there? Whereas, you know, what you're saying is that that's flattened and, as you say, democratized. So that's really interesting.
Every person is now a camera person as well, because of our, you know, whereas in the past, if there was a big, you know, factory fire or something like that, and they still do send out the TV cameras, but the person who is there on the ground filming it on their phone, it is often their footage that then gets up on it.
Yeah, very true. Interesting. So modern PR agencies such as yourself is doing a lot more than organising glamorous parties and sending out press releases. So you're also doing the social media. You're doing what I understand is brand management. So do you want to sort of talk about that a little bit more? Have you ever had clients where the brand, the either perception was negative or it was underdeveloped, and so you actually had to do a whole lot of pre-work before the client could get the media, I guess, response they wanted?
Comes a lot into the area that we call issues management. If you are working on a brand and I probably had more experience of this when I worked in a very large multinational PR agency for a number of years, and we looked after big clients, and a big part of our brief was exactly that. There was a lot of brand detractors. So it was our job to, make sure that their story got out fairly and they had a share of voice, which some may think is, ironic. Say, well, they're big, large multinational companies. There's a real imbalance of power there. But there's also a role. I mean, I like to look at a bit like a lawyer. Everyone has the right to be heard, and
yeah.
But yeah, so often, if there is a brand that has detractors, you've really got to, before you actually go out there, look at what the fundamental problem is. Is there something seriously wrong, and does it? You can't. As they say, the old saying, you can't put lipstick on a pig. You've got to, if there's something wrong, you've got to address it and you've got to fix it and you've got to do the right thing by your stakeholders, ultimately. You can't go out there and try and bullshit everyone and hope you get away with it, because these days, maybe in the past you could before social media, but these days you can't. So there is a lot more focus on transparency, honesty. And once, if the brand feels, okay, well, we've done the right things and we're ready to go out there. There's, it really depends on who you're working with and what the problem is and who the audience is.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. No, it's just interesting to kind of hear you talk about that, because I'd imagine that there are companies that do have an image problem, and they've got to go softly before they can go in with the big announcements.
When I worked for the large multinational PR agency, one of our clients was a leading fast food brand. I won't say who they were. And they had this saying, we used to look after all their issues and crisis management. And we had team members walking around with, this is just when mobile phones were getting big. They had pages, and they used to get paged 24/7. And the view of the company was they served 1 million people every day in Australia. And if there was a 1 in a million chance of something going wrong, the odds were it was going to happen every day. So to plan and deal with the problems that you knew were in front of you and you knew had been, in the background. But also you've got part of our role as well in the issues and crisis management is planning for the unexpected, because that does happen. And I've got, I used to bore my students when I was teaching with all these war stories about, God, the stuff that we've had to deal with, just make your hair curl. But that's what I really, another reason that I really love what I do is because every day is different. And you never know.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So I've just got 2 final questions before we start wrapping up. I guess the first one would be, because there's a number of food brands watching that I recognise. What would be some of your top tips, top 3 or top 5 tips for, I guess, a food brand that wants to get their product, that wants to get some media coverage for their product?
Yeah. Okay. I think have a good story, like a good launching a new sub product, a sub brand might be super exciting for you, but it's not for everyone else. So you've got to look at it. Think, okay, well, what is there to this brand that we put out there to make it interesting? And that is often where the human interest stories come in, and the people brand and how the brands have developed. So if a brand has got a lovely story to it, then that's great. As we mentioned, visuals as well. Visuals are super important. If we weren't in a COVID world, doing some sort of event.
Yes.
But you don't need to spend squillions on it. And just be really really work on nurturing relationships with the key, like really identify where it is you want to see your brand, either media, working with influencers, or working with foodies, or whatever it is.
Yeah, got you.
And take a very well-planned, well-thought-through approach to fostering those relationships. Don't go out full of date. Plan ahead, and don't rush.
Those are great. Yeah. So first of all, have a story. So it's not enough to say company X launched its amazing product Y today,
Look,
off the back of success of blah, blah, blah.
You'll probably only get a story like that up in the trade press.
Yeah.
In the food trade. If you're wanting something that really gets traction across a wide range of consumer media, then you've got to make it a bit more interesting. Which is why I really like Cook to Connect, because basically a group of food brands and appliances as well. We've got Tefal and Kenwood involved as well. But what it's given them the opportunity to do is, from the partnerships we've been able to create really beautiful images. We've been able to go to the media and talk about the brands within the context of what they're doing with a charity partnership as well. If you can look at connecting the brand to some sort of not-for-profit enterprise that doesn't, smack of tokenism, that really a beautiful, meaningful partnership, then that can work really well as well.
Yeah, good. So have a story, have great visuals. Once we start opening up, look for opportunities to physically, to give your product a physical presence in front of its target audience.
And maybe it's not an event. Maybe it's an activation. Maybe it's, I don't know, something else. But yeah, the face-to-face, I miss face-to-face. I really do. I can't wait.
Not long, Sophie.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we're counting down the weeks. So I guess finally, how can people get in touch with you? And I guess, having been in the sector for a while, I'd imagine there are areas you're particularly passionate about. So, what should people come and see you for? What particular areas of public relations?
Oh, look, we do lots of everything, really. I wouldn't say that we are, just lifestyle or just tech or just fashion. The companies that I work with, I really look to work with nice people. That's a start. People who are have got a really we do a lot with the in the sort of the startup and the scale up space as well. Probably more scale up than startup. Jason's just joined. Hello, Jason. Everyone. Robert. Now
he must have heard us talking about him. We were talking about you, Jason.
Must have a look at his content. It's absolutely stunning what he's doing with Cook to Connect and Plate from Mate. Look, I'm happy to talk to anyone. I don't know what industry you're in, and a lot of the time I've got people coming to me and I say, you know what? Don't do PR. It's not for you. You're not ready, or think about it in 6 months' time, or no, you don't need a PR strategy. You need a sales strategy, or a, I don't know, a proper digital strategy or something.
Yeah,
I will talk to anyone, but also if I think the PR is not for you, I won't be backwards in coming forwards and saying, not for you. Oh,
that's really good to know. Yeah. So basically, businesses should come and see you for really high-level, sophisticated, strategic advice. So regardless of their sector, you can advise on the right strategies, and you'll even be honest if you feel that they're not ready for PR. Yeah.
Because the way I look at it is that, if I say to you, okay, don't do PR, instead, if I said, oh, yes, let's send out a press release, and even when I know in my heart of hearts it's not going to go anywhere, that's not good for my brand either. I would hope that by being honest with you that we might be able to work together when you are ready to do PR and you do. So, I mean, you know that yourself, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Oh, that's been so interesting. Thank you so much, Sophie. Really interesting to chat to that. And I will. We've been looking at Cook to Connect, and definitely going to look at it with a fresh pair of eyes after today.
Exactly. Yeah, and have a look at, as I said again, Plate for a Mate.
Yes.
On Instagram, plate_for_a mate.
Yeah,
so
good.
have a look at that, and you can have a look also at the food brands that are involved, the different chefs that are involved, some of the amazing recipes, and also, as I mentioned, Chef Jason Roberts, who's now on this call, his content just not blows my mind. It's just so cool. Gold standard when it comes to that.
Well, we might have to chat to some of those guys another time. Sounds fascinating. Well, we wish you all the best with the project, Sophie, and can't wait to see you locally for a coffee or a cocktail.
Oh, me too.
All overdue.
Yeah. So much, Steph. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been really great. And if anyone wants to have a chat, just hit me up on LinkedIn is probably the best, I think. And yeah, we'll chat from there.
Will do. All right. Have a great weekend. That was Sophie from Blue Planet PR, which you'll see on the Instagram feed.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much, Sophie.
Bye.
All right. Thanks so much, everyone. You've been watching BRANDCORE, weekly discussions on food, brands, and business. We'll be back with more. We do take requests, by the way. So we've spoken, as you know, with entrepreneurs, label experts, strategists. We've spoken with PR today. We've spoken with a photographer. Love to take some requests of people that you'd like to see on BRANDCORE next. Have a great weekend, and catch you next time. Thanks, everyone.